Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven.
On June 10th, 1882, three black men, Isaac King, George Robertson, and Peter Vinegar, were lynched at this site by a mob of at least 100 white men.
We are here today to honor them standing together as a community. I want to reiterate standing together, which is something that could not and did not happen in 1882 because black people were in fear of their lives. Standing together as a community to honor Pete Vinegar, Isaac King, and George Robertson 140 years later is monumental.
It is no secret that this country was built on the foundation of white supremacy. The Constitution only recognized black people as 3/5 of a person until the 13th Amendment. The dehumanization of black Americans is what makes the killing of black people more palatable to our society. Our skin is weaponized against us, and people go great lengths to justify our murders. The media is filled with a plethora of videos of black citizens' violent, often fatal, racist encounters with law enforcement and white supremacists. We have indisputable proof of the constant brutality that we face, but far too often it is not enough because of this nation's refusal to acknowledge our history of racial injustice.
Kansas entered the Union as a free state, and the false belief grew that the state welcomed free black people. Following the end of the Civil War in 1865, white people sought to uphold an ideology of white supremacy and use fatal violence to reinforce racial subordination and segregation. By the end of Reconstruction in 1877, federal courts and Congress had abandoned enforcing laws to protect black people.
State and federal officials tolerated these lawless killings of black people by failing to hold white mobs accountable for their crimes.
Between 1865 and 1950, there were at least 23 documented racial terror lynchings in Kansas, with at least 3 known to have taken place in Douglas County.
Mr. King and Mr. Robertson were living temporarily in the Vinegar family when they discovered a white man sexually assaulting Mr. Vinegar's 14-year-old daughter, Margaret, and came to her defense. Mr. Vinegar, Mr. King, Mr. Robertson, and Margaret were later arrested after the white man's body was found in the river. On June 9th, the sheriff ignored a report of a planned lynching.
Although witnesses testified to the identity of several members of the mob, no one was ever held accountable for these lynchings. 14-year-old Margaret Vinegar was also threatened by mob with lynching. And an all-white jury later sentenced her to death, and she was imprisoned until she died from tuberculosis at just 20 years old.
Let us not forget, but let us remember what happened here at this bridge. Let us remember what happened at this spot, that 3 black men, Mr. Isaac King, Mr. George Robertson, Mr. Peter Vinegar, they were lynched here. We're here to commemorate these lynchings. We're here to dedicate this marker so that we never forget.
You need to understand your history. You need to be able to walk those places where the history took place. You need to understand where that blood spilled, you know, in order to give you that right to vote, give you that right to shop where you please to shop, give you that right to be able to marry the person that you actually love. They need to understand the importance of having the right. They need to understand our youth, that is very vital and important for them to understand and know our history.
I welcome the opportunity for us to be stronger. We are family. Family is accountable to each other. We have to be accountable. That's what strengthens family. And so we may not like each other one day and we may love each other the next day, but family endures. And so this is a season for us that we have to endure an ugly truth about our city and our city's history. But we can rise above this. We can learn from it, and we can grow, and we can learn not to make that same mistake again.
Ring with the harmonies of liberty.